The world has lost one of the most beloved spiritual leaders in modern history, Pope Francis. The passing of Pope Francis has sent ripples of grief across the globe, as millions mourn the death of a pope who was so much more than a religious leader. He was a symbol of hope for the oppressed, the poor, and the marginalized. For over a decade, Pope Francis's leadership was marked by his deep commitment to reforming the Catholic Church, addressing social inequalities, and advocating for environmental justice. His final journey, marked by a procession to St. Peter's Basilica, was a moment of reflection on his life and legacy. As the world comes to terms with the loss of Pope Francis, his passing is more than just a moment of sadness. It is a moment for us to reflect on the immense impact he had on the Catholic Church, the world, and the countless individuals whose lives were touched by his example. From his papacy's earliest days to his final moments, Pope Francis was a beacon of love, compassion, and justice. He spoke out for peace, human dignity, and the importance of taking care of our planet. His legacy is not one of power or grandeur, but of humility and service to others. The final chapter of Pope Francis's journey began when his body was taken to St. Peter's Basilica, the center of the Catholic faith. For 3 days, Pope Francis's body lay in state, accessible to the millions who wished to pay their respects. Pilgrims, dignitaries, and everyday people from all walks of life came to see the Pope one last time. For many, this was an opportunity to thank the man who had dedicated his life to making the world a better place for everyone, especially those who had often been forgotten by society. Pope Francis' death marked the end of an era for the Church. His leadership was transformative, and he often faced criticism from those who resisted change. But his vision for a more inclusive, compassionate, and reform-minded church was unwavering. Throughout his papacy, Pope Francis emphasized the need for the Church to move away from its more traditional, sometimes rigid approach, and instead, become a force for compassion and justice in the world. This call for change wasn't just about internal church reforms, but about reaching out to those on the margins of society and addressing issues that went beyond the walls of the Vatican. The funeral of Pope Francis was a significant event, attended by people from all corners of the world. It wasn't just a ceremony for Catholics, but a global moment of reflection. World leaders, religious figures, and citizens alike came together to honor Pope Francis for his dedication to peace, human rights, and the betterment of humanity. For many, this funeral was an opportunity to express gratitude for a man who, despite his position of immense power, never lost sight of the importance of humility and love. What made Pope Francis' papacy stand out was his constant emphasis on serving the poor and the vulnerable. He was never afraid to speak out against social injustices, calling for an end to economic inequality, violence, and discrimination. His papacy was deeply rooted in the belief that the Church's primary role was to care for those who had been excluded from society. He lived out this principle in his actions, whether it was welcoming refugees, speaking out against the arms trade, or standing in solidarity with communities suffering from poverty. At the heart of Pope Francis's message was a profound commitment to peace. He spent his life advocating for a world where people of all faiths and backgrounds could live in harmony. His message was simple but powerful. We are all brothers and sisters, and we are called to love and care for one another. His approach to peace was not merely about dialogue, but about building bridges between communities, religions, and nations. Pope Francis sought to bridge divides, whether it was between Christians and Muslims, or between the wealthy and the poor. Perhaps one of the most defining moments of Pope Francis's papacy was his outspoken advocacy for the environment. He recognized the moral imperative to protect the earth, a gift from God that must be preserved for future generations. His encyclical Laudato Si called for urgent action to address the environmental crises facing the planet. Pope Francis was one of the first global leaders to clearly state that caring for the environment was not just a political issue, but a moral one. His commitment to environmental justice resonated worldwide and inspired countless individuals, organizations, and governments to take action. Pope Francis's passing also raised questions about the future direction of the Catholic Church. While Pope Francis was known for his progressive stance on many issues, the next pope may not follow in his footsteps. His death marks the beginning of the process to choose a new leader, who will have the responsibility of continuing his work, or potentially shifting the church's focus.